Yo, what's good, people? So there's this massive inconsistency in Demon Slayer which has just been on my mind constantly for the past few weeks. It's something that not only ruins many moments in the show, what can potentially ruin the impact of fighting scenes, but it just makes no bloody sense whatsoever. What I'm referring to was never actually talked about in the anime itself. However, it is from the manga, and the manga and the anime are in the same universe. They're the same canon, like there's no differences between them. So I assume this is supposed to be canon within the anime. So I'm going to read to you what I'm talking about now. Murata's Sans blood relatives were killed by demons, so he joined the demon hunters because he had no living relatives. He uses the breath of water, but the water is so faint that you don't see it. Now here's the important part. No, swordsmen don't actually unleash water attacks. People who see this just think they see it and feel it. So what this means is, for example, when Rengoku is using his flame breathing, there's no fire actually there. We as the audience, we as the ones watching, just see it and perceive it to be that way. But there's not actually any fire there. There's no elemental attacks, and this goes for every single breathing style. When Tanjiro's using his sun breathing, same thing. When he's using his water breathing, same exact thing. There's no actual elemental attacks there. And I can think of many points in the show where this doesn't make sense. Where if the elemental attacks aren't there, it just doesn't make sense. There's no way that we're imagining it being there, because the elemental attacks themselves are what get the job done. And I will give you a few examples, and I will talk about why this is such a big problem and why this can potentially ruin the show for a lot of people. So the first one that comes to mind is when Tanjiro is fighting Suzumari and Yahaba. Mainly Yabaha, you know, the guy with the psychotic flying arrow things, whatever they're called. Yabaha launches Tanjiro like 30 fucking feet into the air, right? And Tanjiro's like, oh no, I'm going to have to do my different breathing styles to try and cushion the fall. And I'm like, okay. So when he inevitably falls, the water is there to cushion his fall, right? But that's not there apparently, according to this piece of lore. So what actually happens is Tanjiro is just swinging his sword around in the air and doing different breathing styles. How does that equate to that cushioning his fall? How does that actually save him from dying, from falling 30 feet in the air? That makes zero sense if the water's not there. Like, it actually does not compute. I can think of many more examples, and I'll list a few off right now. So you're telling me Muchiro doesn't actually obscure himself with fog? He has no actual power to like obscure himself and his surroundings with smoke? And you can say when he's doing that, he's just moving so fast that you can barely see him. So instead of being able to create fog, he can just move at supersonic speed. Yeah, okay, that's stupid. And whilst we're talking about that, Zenitsu, literally when he uses his thunderclap and flash, it looks like he's moving like lightning. We hear lightning strike, he moves so fast, there's like a yellow bolt behind him which is supposed to be the lightning. But no, apparently that's not there, and he's just moving like Sonic apparently. So if they were trying to make Demon Slayers appear more human, so they don't have special powers like demons do, because obviously it doesn't state anywhere that the demons, blood demon arts are fake. Like, Dorma can still create all his ice powers, they're real apparently, but the Demon Slayer's elemental powers aren't real. But apparently they can move like 100 miles per hour, so that makes no sense. So they can't have elemental attacks, but they can move like way faster than any natural human would ever be able to. So what is the point in getting rid of the elemental attacks if we're still going to make them superhuman? And for me, this kind of like dumbs down the amazing fight between Rengoku and Akaza. And we can see a perfect example of this when Rengoku swings his sword to create like a flame barrier. He's blocking Akaza's Shoryukens with the fire. You can see in the anime, the fire itself is literally blocking the blasts. So there's another example of where it doesn't make sense. Now here's an example of where it would make sense, but it just kind of ruins the moment. When Rengoku's going for like his final strike, his last ditch effort, he engulfs himself in fire. Are we supposed to just believe that never happens and he's just standing there? Because that is significantly less amazing. That is just nowhere near as cool to think about. So Rengoku never actually like engulfed himself in flames. And when he's using his final attack and he creates like this massive fire dragon, that was never there. Like, it's just so silly to me. You can see what I'm talking about when I say it doesn't make sense in so many different scenarios, and it kind of ruins many moments within the Demon Slayer series itself. It just, all round, it's just a bad thing. This piece of lore never should have been added to the series. The bit of hope that I'm clinging onto is that this was never actually established in the anime itself. It was only ever mentioned in the manga, but as I talked about at the start of the video, the manga and the anime are one in the same. They're both canon in the same universe. So unfortunately, until someone from the Demon Slayer team, someone who helped create it, work on it, establishes the fact that this is not true, it is true for now, which I just think is so silly because it creates so many problems in the show itself. I'm going to move over to Reddit now because I was doing some research for this video and I came across a very good comment from Zoology Tommy. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But what he put is, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't there attacks that actually manipulate the elements in ways that can't just be flashy effects? This is mostly going off the wiki, but there are several attacks that seem to actually generate or utilize elements. Thunder breathing, 4th form, distant thunder. So this is from thunder breathing. Obviously Zenitsu uses that, however he only has access to the 1st and 7th form. He never actually learned this himself. The user generates a ball of electricity that releases waves of strong multi-directional lightning bolts from afar. So this breathing form literally states it creates a thunderball, bro. So it's literally contradicting itself right there. Flame breathing, 9th form, Rengoku, a devastating dashing slash that the user initiates from a high stance. The technique has enough power to carve a deep impression that burnt the ground where it was unleashed. Well, I guess you could be putting enough pressure onto the ground to like kind of like burn it and leave a mark without fire actually being there. So that like somewhat makes sense. However, still calling BS. Water breathing, 6th form, whirlpool flow. So this is a technique that Tanjiro, Giyu, all the water breathers can use. A combination of 3rd form, flowing dance, and 6th form. Whirlpool created by Tanjiro, the user combines the footwork from flowing dance and twisting movements of a whirlpool, performing an attack around the users that conjures a twisting, swirling, vicious flow of water to redirect projectiles from multiple angles. So this move itself literally tells you it creates water, like it's written right there. There's no arguing that. And he goes on to state many different examples of descriptions of breathing techniques that actually use the element stated. So yeah, in my opinion, I think this is the biggest, most inconsistent problem with Demon Slayer as a whole. I understand they want to make the main characters, the heroes, you know, be a significant disadvantage compared to the demons. They do not want them to be on the same level of strength whatsoever, because it just makes it that much more entertaining, that much more appealing when they're able to overcome the odds and actually defeat the demons despite them not having any sort of special powers, elemental powers, all that. But there's just so many examples in the show where just this makes no sense. And honestly, how I think they'll address it is they just won't. They'll never mention it within the show again. You know, we're probably only going to get Demon Slayer movies from now on, and I doubt it's going to be addressed in any of those. So honestly, I just think this is dumb and they need to retcon it. Let me know what all of you think though. If you're new to the channel, which most of you probably are, hit the subscribe button. Plenty of more Demon Slayer content coming off me, and just a lot more theories, a lot more discussions across a wider variety of topics coming as well. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.